comes to a real man, excuses go out the door. When I was a child, I did childish things, but when I became a man, you start to do and move in a different way. I don't have time to make an excuse. I have time to have a solution.
There you go.
Excuses ain't in this equation anymore. No. I need to have a solution to what's going on. So I think that's the difference in some of these things, is that men focus on solutions while real, focus on how can I get out of it.
They be like, what it be like you already know what it is. It's your boy Calvin Lightmy Way, and this is Cut the Noise, growing through conversation. Today I got a returning guest. You already know who it is, Mr. Minister Barry Hamilton. What's going on, brother?
What's up, brother? Glad to be back, man.
Man, last episode was phenomenal, talking about the love and the purpose of a father. Mm-hmm. Today, man, topic's gonna kind of be in the same vein.
Okay.
But I gotta edit the title just a tad. Real ninjas versus real men. Okay.
Okay.
And this, man, it hit close to home because there's so much going on right now in our society with rap culture, our culture, glorifying what I call the worst of us, the dysfunction, and even toxic energy, period. Because, we hear a lot about toxic masculinity.
Right.
When really it's just masculinity. But when it comes to toxic living, toxic personality, we talking about sin, we talking about glorifying death and murder and drug use, sexuality on hypersexuality. We talking about a little something different.
Yeah.
So, first things first, what are your thoughts when it comes to this epidemic of rappers being killed by gun violence?
Whew. So it's a lot right there.
Yes,
right?
It is.
So to me, at least for me, as I'm seeing this play out, every time it seems like you turn on the TV, they're talking about some young black man being murdered, right? And it's them speaking into reality. The things that are happening. I think a lot of times we forget that words have power.
Absolutely.
Right? And when the things that you speak can have an effect, whether positive or negative. The Bible says your tongue can speak life and death.
Oh, man.
Right? So if you're speaking death and you're glorifying death and you're putting it on this pedestal almost, and then it happens in your life, it's like it was going to happen. That's what you spoke on. That's what you continue to pour your energy and effort into when it comes to your platform. So you have this great platform where you can speak about anything.
Right.
And what you're choosing to speak about is something that is destroying you, our people, our culture. And like I said, you're doing this with the power of your tongue.
Woof. You said a lot right there, brother. Because truly life and death is in the power of the tongue. One thing I speak about a lot with brothers and stuff, and sometimes it kind of get lost in Christian culture, I say it like that, is affirmations. Because a lot of times people hear the law of attraction and this and that, and they make it universe. It's the universe.
Right.
When it's biblical.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because and the Bible talks about meditating on the word. It talks about speaking the word and having the word in your heart as you go out through life. So in other words, it's affirming those words over your life. It's nothing more than an affirmation, right? Okay, just making sure I'm clear.
Right.
All right. So if we're speaking a thing like you say, a song, lyrics, the culture, the energy, the music videos, the imagery of pulling and shooting, and you got the ops and everything else after you.
Right.
You speaking it, and you're attracting it into your life. And I'm moving a little bit, but it's still in the same vein. Why is it so much that even women seem to have a desire, young women, I'm going to say it like that, because, some of you, we grow up, things change.
Eventually.
Because I know myself, I used to pride myself on being a real ninja.
Right.
You know what I mean? And by being that real ninja, there was a lot of attention that came my way because of that persona, right? But why does it seem that women seem to be attracted to that real ninja mentality?
And that's
the bad boys,
right?
The bad boys.
And I'm strictly going off of my own thought, right?
Yeah.
I'm a man,
right?
So I really can't speak to what draws them. But it's almost like when you look at, I'm gonna look at it from the male perspective, right? Yeah. Men are drawn to a certain type of woman too, right? But I think it's that that misconceived notion of what manhood is, what masculinity is, right? They see the real jokers out there, and they say, "Oh, he's a man. He can protect me, right? He can provide for me because of whatever he's doing outside, right?" I think that draws them in that way, right? It's like excitement.
Oh, okay.
Right. So they're looking for this excitement in life, right? And you see those that aren't perceived as the real, you know, they seem boring. Right. They're not no fun. They don't keep me on my toes. Right. Whereas those real ones, you know, it's always something going on. It's some kind of drama in their life, and they may be attracted to that. You know, and for me, I guess maybe it's really trying to get down to the definition of what one considers a real ninja, right? What is it that, you know, at least you can help me here. What would one consider real?
Okay. So, speaking from my past, a real ninja would be defined as a person that has that street credibility, that will go to war for his family, his friends, his crew, right? So you say anything to me, I'm a Will Smith you. You know what I mean? You know, he was a real ninja in the moment. Right. That's why a lot of people, even in that moment, was, oh yeah, he did the right thing. He did this and that because he was protecting his woman. Okay, we'll get there in a little bit.
We'll talk about that later. Right.
We'll get there in a little bit. But also, it's having almost an intimidating spirit. You know what I mean? Okay. To be almost imposing in a room. Some people might have gunplay. Some people might just have hands. Some people might have a big crew. So, you know, it's a plethora of things, but it covers that. Oh, whenever he comes in or they come in, it's gonna be some drama, or they gonna shut down, right? Okay. And then also, there's a financial thing on it too. Okay. You know, people might be doing some illegal activity. Okay. And you know, they do those things. Okay. That personally wasn't my thing, you know. Okay. I sold a little liquor here and there, but that was it. But that's it in a nutshell.
Okay. So understanding what this definition of a real one is, it definitely goes with what I'm thinking. Yes, absolutely. Is that all of those things that you just said is what they're attracted to, right? Right. And versus, now what's the opposite of that?
Well, the opposite, I was that too. So see, the opposite is the square. He's the guy that, you know, get good grades. He's got a regular job. He's safe. You know, there was one transition in my life, right, where somebody told me I was too nice, and that created a monster, right? You know, but in many men, that's their story. But for all of them, it ain't. Some of them just born dogs. But it's more along the lines of imagery. I don't even think it's actually real. In most cases, even speaking of like some of these rappers and so forth and so on, a lot of time it's just a image that must be pushed out. Yeah. Because, you know, one of the big 10 commandments was, don't create no God other than me. Don't lift up no idols or images, right? So, in a sense, this image that someone is trying to pursue actually turns into a God himself. because I know at that point in my life I was very conceited.
Mm-hmm.
You know, times my wife might say I am now, but but that's her. We ain't talking about that. But yeah, man, it's a lot.
So, you know, and again, just taking everything that you're telling me right now, right?
Right.
So this real Joker that we're talking about, this definition of, right? It sounds like someone pretending to be hard,
right?
Pretending to be in control, intimidating. It's all an act,
right?
So how can one be real when everything that you're describing really is an act,
right?
And if we're looking at, you know, just from rappers or whoever's standpoint, you know, that's what you're portraying,
right?
You know, you're acting,
right?
You're acting like these things. The reality is you're not any of these things, but you're acting like what you've seen, what you saw, what you consumed. It's I taught a lesson a while back about the things that we consume, right? And when it comes to your eye gates, your ear gates, the things that you see, the things that you hear, you will at some point start to become, right? So over time, all you hearing is, you know, you got to get the girl, you got to get the money, you got to get in the street, you got to be hard, you got to be a thug, you got to lay it down, you got to, you know, pull your strap out and shoot, bang, bang, whatever they saying, you keep consuming that.
Right.
And the more of it you consume, the more of it you become.
Exactly.
So at that point, all you're doing is acting on what you were told is okay. So that real ninja that you're talking about can be easily erased if we start feeding what a man is actually really, not what they're telling you it is.
Absolutely.
Because the more you consume of the truth about what a man is, you start to become what you're consuming.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to speak on me for a second. What changed for me was what changed everything in my life. And that was whenever that first boy was born. Because I was out here, you know, like I said, being something, right? Not being who my daddy taught me to be.
Right.
Not being who God created me to be.
Right.
But being this image, right? Once my son was born, things got real. And I started to tap in to the source of what a real man is supposed to be. And that led me to scripture. And salvation ultimately. Now, for most individuals, that might not be the catalyst for them. That might not be their story.
Right.
And they might venture down towards industries of music or whatever. Just the example that we started off with. But for me, having something to seriously protect, seriously provide for, and seriously be an example to, changed me. Because I didn't want my son to be out doing the stupid stuff that I was doing.
Right.
To be pretending, to be fake or chasing after, or ultimately killed. Because I had a lot of my friends that I grew up with when I was being real that ain't here no more. And it hurt. But I say that didn't stop. You know what I mean? Like you hear about rappers making songs about their old crew and who was shot and who did what. It doesn't stop a lot of people. The fear of death. But what you're saying, going back to what you said, because I'm long-winded. Going back to what you said is that example, the real vision of a man. That I always had that. I always had it. It was just the women that made me flip. It made me flip my script. But for a brother like yourself, how can you relate or not relate to this scenario?
So, you know, let me circle back to what you were saying. You said, you know, it was always there, but you strayed away. It's because the seeds that were planted in you before, raise a child up the way you want him to be, he'll go where you want him to go. We all have had a moment in our lives where we kind of strayed off of, where it is that we were supposed to be going, right? It's just, some of us know how to get back.
Yeah.
Some of us need help getting back.
Right.
Some of us don't know the way back. So it's easy for you to be over here, but then come back.
Right.
Because it's already ingrained in who you are.
Right.
And that goes, again, us giving the real examples of what manhood looks like, right? But for me, I did my fair share of foolishness. Right. I've done my fair share. But it at the end, when I really look at the totality of all the things that I did, it wasn't me. Right. It wasn't me. It didn't take a life altering change to make me realize it wasn't me. It was just taking a hard look at self and saying, you know what, I'm not this. Right. Like I can continue to be all these things, but is it really who I am?
Right.
Is it me trying to fit in with the environment that I'm choosing to put myself into?
Right.
So a lot of it was I'm trying to fit into what I'm seeing, what I'm around. So for me, it was getting, once I got out of it, the environment, it was simple to figure out who I am. So a lot of times, that environment that people are in is dictating how they're going to act and react to stuff.
Right.
But if you change it, if you put them in a different environment, they should adapt to that new environment too. So getting your mind focused on something other than that mess that you in is I won't say easy, it's a good start to getting away from that, real stereotype.
Gotcha. So a lot of times with the culture, right, we hear, oh, you done made it, now you leaving the hood, or you leaving, like, why you leaving? Because I made it. Let's say, first of all, that's how I see it. Now, the thing is, a lot of people are in situations that they could have been out of a long time ago, that their parents could have been out a long time ago. We make a lot of excuses in our community, our culture, about what the white man did or these folks did and this, that, and so forth. Not to say any of those things didn't happen.
Right.
But we got to take responsibility for what we got now.
Yes.
What's going on today.
Yes.
And if we can be educated, if we can take up a trade, if we can learn a skill set, people pay for that. So as far as a job is concerned, we can get any type of job off of nothing, but by going after a skill set or learning something, people pay for that. And my dad always told us, college might not be for you.
Right.
Military might not be for you. But you're going to get out here and find a trade.
You're going to do something.
You're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
Because there's so much security in the military. There's so much security in education, a college education, if you actually studying something.
Right.
You just can't go in for physical education or something, you know what I mean?
Yes, you can. And I'm going to say that with 100% certainty, because a lot of times when it comes to a degree, they don't care what your degree is in.
Okay.
Unless it's something specific. Like,
right.
I work for a company where we do electrical engineering, right?
Okay.
They want for certain roles, they want you to have an electrical engineering degree, right? Or engineering degree. But a lot of times a role just says BA or BS. That's what it says. They don't care what your concentration was when you were there. What they want to see with that is that you went and did something and completed it.
Right.
Not
that you got some stick to it in.
Yeah. Did you set up? You go. You did a goal. You passed it. And you graduated. Then that's what they want to see. They don't necessarily care. Like when I got out of college, my degree is biology. Right. I was in the financial industry though when I first got out.
Right.
Had nothing to do with biology. Right. So it doesn't. That degree, it's important to get it, but if you get a degree in phys ed, you got a degree in phys ed, go get you a job. Right. I think it was something you said before that I was thinking about while you were saying it, is that that people you get out, make it, then you leave the hood.
Right.
I made it so I could leave.
Yes.
I didn't make it so that I can stay here with you and do the same stuff that we was doing before.
Right.
I did what I had to do so that I could leave.
Right.
And to stay makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to me, because you didn't work as hard as you worked. You didn't put in the energy and the time and the effort that it took for you to accomplish your goals that you set to stay in the place that kept you down.
Right.
Right. And then, you know, as I guess I want to say the culture.
Right.
You changed. I did. Right. Or like you said before too, about the people keeping you down, and all of these stigmas, right? I believe 100% wholeheartedly you can change your situation
real quick,
regardless of anything else that's happening, for many reasons. One, I believe that when you put your faith in God and run with Him, anything is possible for you to do, right? But once you let go of what you think is holding you down,
right,
and move beyond this thought that everybody is putting, again, what they fed you and what you've been listening to. Once you get that stuff out your mind and realize, you know what, I can go as far as I can take me. Your school system's bad, that's okay. I get it. I understand you in a bad school system, but what are you doing in that bad school system? Right. Are you excelling, or are you just blaming it on the fact that the schools is bad, so I ain't gonna do nothing?
Right.
Right, because you can have all the faith in the world, but if you ain't working, it's dead doorknob, right?
Yes, sir.
So is what you doing in your situation?
Right.
Are you working hard, or are you just sitting in it just because? Okay, you say you can't find a job. Cool, I get it. But what are you doing to prepare yourself to be ready for the job when it come? Are you training yourself in a skill, like you said? Are you finding a skill or a trade so that you can become more marketable and desirable to somebody else, right? It's so many things we can do, and that we just kind of turn our noses up at.
Because you know what? Excuses give us somebody to blame. That's all excuses do. Excuses are, it's that fault. It's that thing's fault. It's their fault. That's the reason I'm where I'm at. But as soon as we take away excuses, it's on me.
Mm-hmm.
And see, a lot of people do that because they don't want accountability. They don't want to do the work. Mm-hmm. They don't want to step up.
Yeah.
And they lazy. Sorry, not sorry. They lazy.
Yeah.
And if you take away all the excuses in the world and you take personal responsibility, and like you say, you put God at the head, you put your faith in Him, and you move forward with all excellence, all power, all strength, you're gonna conquer that's before you. But if you got excuses, you're not going in with that vigor. You're not going in ready to fight and excel. You're not going in like, yo, I'm about to execute on this test. I'm about to execute on this exam. I'm about to go take this course or this class. I'm about to kill it. Because you are looking backwards and saying, no, this is why.
This is why.
Forget that.
Right.
Let's move. And now going back to the name of the topic, real ninjas versus real men.
Mm-hmm.
Real men don't make excuses. Period. Dude, I'm going to tell you this. All right. So when me and my wife, we first got together, right? We stayed in this little trailer that my mom's and dad had, right? I was paying like $200 a rent. A little single wide trailer. My mom's looking out for your boy. So we stayed in this little trailer. Part of the floor was coming out in some of the rooms. Holes in the wall. You know what I mean? Heat won't work in sometimes. Air won't work in sometimes. I was fine. I was complacent. You know what I mean? And my lady, she coming over here. She chilling with your boy. She fine. Once we got kids, though, we got this little boy done popped up out of here. And now it's like, yo, we got to do something.
Got to do something.
We got to do something. I was kind of chill. But after when he came in the deal, matter of fact, before that, I was working there for Smithfield Foods. I was working for a hog farm, right? So I'm out here doing, dirt work. You know what I mean? I'm out here grinding and getting. Don't really care. I still work and do stuff that I don't mind. You know what I mean? Something about sweating, tearing something down, and then looking like, yeah, I did that, and then building something up. I did that. I take pride in that. That's just the man in me, right? So once my son was conceived, I talked to one of my cousins. She was working at this pharmaceutical company. She was like, cuz, you know, if you're trying to do something different, like you say, take this class here and you can come out where I'm at. And I'm like, shoot, man, cuz, tell me what to do. So I take the class. I take this class and I'm like, man, it was either 8 or 16-week course. Not long at all.
Right.
So I'm like, bet. I take, and it's like maybe 1 or 2 nights a week. So it was nothing, dude. So I take this class, and after I get the class, get my certificate, it took a while. I couldn't get no job. I'm like, shoot, I done took the class.
Right.
So I'm sending my app in, not getting a call back. Finally, I get an interview after like 6 months, maybe close to a year. I get this call in. I'm like, I'm gonna go get this job. Been praying to God. I go in. I'm super humble. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, you know, Lord, if it's for me, it's for me. And I'm just happy-go-lucky. And I didn't get the job. And I'm like, bro, like, what's going on? But I didn't go into the job, to the interview, willing to execute. I came in trying to be super humble, trying to be super Christian, right? Not to say anything wrong being super Christian, but my persona, my image. See, I was on the other side now of this imagery thing. And I'm trying to say the right things and be this right person for the interview. But I won't execute. You see what I'm saying? Got me another interview a few months later. I come in with a whole different mentality now. Because I prayed about this thing. I talked to some folks about this thing. And I'm on the way to the interview, and I'm like, I hear this song from Mary. And I'm like, I think I talked about this before. I'm in there ready to go get it. I'm about to go get my blessing. So I go into the interview, dude, ready to execute. I'm answering these questions with the intent of having a job. I'm not talking about if it's for me, it's for me. I'm not talking about, you know, if you guys are looking for something. I'm like, no, I'm the best candidate. I tell you what my work history is. I tell you what I used to do. I tell you how I flipped that high. I did these things with these hogs, and I cleaned up this, and I done that. How I supervised people, how I dealt with, because I was supervised on the hog farm. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, oh, man. Like, wow. But the thing is, the humble guy and the executor were the same person. The real ninja and the real man was the same person. It was just the direction, the choices that I made. You see what I'm saying? And when brothers, sisters as well, can take the time to choose who you are. Like, choose this day whom you gonna serve. You gonna serve the real man in you, or you gonna serve the wicked man in you? You see what I'm saying? You gonna serve your flesh, or you serving the spirit? That's where the choices is, man. You know, it's so easy to make an excuse and say, man, they ain't hiring me out there because of the white man. See, if I was white, they'd have hired me.
Right.
I could have made that excuse, been stubborn, never execute, and still been on the hog farm.
Yeah.
But I executed. I've been out here for like 10 years at this other spot. Pretty much do about what I want. You know what I mean? Make pretty good money. Let's say, but look, still greater is coming. Because I ain't done. I got so much life to live. I'm still growing. And we are all still growing. Dude, if you 67 years old, you still growing.
You still living, you still growing.
Still growing. You
That's
above ground. Let's keep pushing. And going back to what cranked me up. What cranked me up. Why not leave the hood? Why not? Where you start out isn't where you're supposed to finish. We are all set in life. We're dealt the hand that we're dealt. But the steps what we take in life determine where we end up. The choices and decisions that we've made in the past determine where we are right now. Mm-hmm. So if we want to be better off tomorrow, next year, it's just choices and decisions. So why not now?
You just dropped a whole lot right there, right? And that's good. It's good. So, you know, and I'm gonna try to go back and hit everything you touched on, right? So the first thing you was talking about excuses. Mm-hmm. There's a saying that goes, excuses are tools of incompetence. Woo! Used to build monuments of nothingness, and those that use them seldomly amount to anything. Right? So
say it again.
Excuses get you nothing, right? And when you're looking at the title of this segment, right? Real ninjas versus real men, right? Real ninjas got every excuse in the world as to why they do the things they do. Why are you on the street hustling? Well, I got to feed my family. There's other ways to feed your family.
Absolutely.
Why is it that you need to, why you think you got to, you know, always have your pistol with you? Well, I need to protect myself. There's other ways to protect yourself. Right. If you're not in the situations that you're in, your protection needs to change, right?
Right.
Why do you, you know, do all of these, you know, foul things to people? Well, because, you know, I got to get it how I live. Well, how you living is foul, and that don't mean that's how you got to live.
Right.
You have an excuse for everything that you do, but when it comes to a real man, excuses go out the door. Like when when I was a child, I did childish things, but when I became a man, you know, you start to do and move in a different way. I don't have time to make an excuse. I have time to have a solution.
There you go.
Excuses ain't in this equation anymore. No. I need to have a solution to what's going on. So I think that's the difference in some of these things, is that men focus on solutions while real, you know, focus on how can I get out of?
Right.
You know, how can I make this quick? It's a microwave society.
Yes,
so
sir.
How can I get this quicker?
Yeah.
A man is not trying to get it quick because they know that quick ain't sustainable. It's gonna go away. How can I put myself in a position where I'm taking care of my business and I always can.
Right.
You know, versus I got to do it this way. No, you don't. Man, you touched on so many things. So I'm trying to make sure I circle around to all of that, right? You know, you spoke about putting yourself in a position to where you were ready, right? And you came in humble, but that didn't necessarily work out, and then you came in with a different confidence. Listen, man, Jesus, that's my homie, right?
Yes, sir.
Ain't nothing he did, he didn't have confidence when he did it, right?
Say that.
Every situation he stepped into,
right, he
stepped in it boldly and confidently. He wasn't shaky and it's not that he wasn't humble.
Right.
He didn't have humility, but he knew who he was.
Yeah.
He knew who he was and what his job was when he came here. He knew who had his back.
Yes, sir.
So every time he stepped into a thing,
right,
his confidence was on 1,000 because I know who I am. I know what I got behind me. So if we take on that attitude, because we were made in his image, right?
Yes,
so if we're made in his image, we should be walking and taking that same confidence in everything that we step into.
Right.
Still being humble. Like, I'm not telling you, you know, not to be humble, right? Everything you have is because God gave it to you.
There you go.
Right? And because I understand that it's his favor that I have, it's grace that I have, it's his mercy that I have, I'm always going to remember that and keep that in my heart. Like, you know what? I don't got none of this happens in my life without him. So, cool. But he also gave me confidence.
Right.
So when I walk in, I know he gave me all this.
Yeah.
So if this is mine too, guess what? He gonna get this to me too. So when I walk into it, I'm gonna walk in it like it's mine already, because he's gonna give me the desires of my heart. And if my desires align with his will for me, then this is cake. I'm gonna get this, right? So, you know, a lot of times we got to remember that, you know, like I said, with Jesus, he wasn't this super soft dude,
right? Like
Jesus wasn't soft, right? He didn't look at all them situations he was in. He wasn't soft in nothing,
right?
You know, at my favorite story is when he go into the temple and they in there acting a fool in the temple. He throwing, what is this? This is not how this supposed to be in here. Right. Don't a soft dude do that.
Right.
Right. I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna say what I gotta say, and at the same time, I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna say it in a way that I'm gonna get my point across. You're gonna hear what I'm saying, and it's not gonna. You're gonna look at me like, who this dude think he is? well, I'm Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Right? So having that same mentality and attitude, let me walk in here that same confidence in everything that I'm going to do because I know who I am. Mm-hmm. I know who he said I am.
Right.
And then, you mentioned choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
One thing I love about God is that, and my pastor, he's been on the show too, but he says God is a gentleman, right? And a gentleman gives you a choice of what you want to do.
Right.
Right? Who do you want to serve? You want to serve me or you want to serve your flesh? You want to serve the sin? That's your choice. I'm not going to push you either way. And it's because of that choice that we have. Sometimes people choose some things that don't align over here because it feels good, more so than the other choice. And the choice in him, it feels amazing, but you gotta endure and go through a thing. And I think that too is a difference in a real man and a real right, because a real man understands I gotta go through some things sometimes, right? It's whether it's good or bad, I have to go through some things, and those things that I'm going through are preparing me for something greater. Right. Like you said that yourself. I know that there's something greater, even though I've gone through where I'm at for 10 years. Yeah. And even in that, there's something greater, right? You understand that this work that I'm putting in, there's something greater. There's more to it. Whereas that real one, or what they think is the real one, I need it now.
Right.
They
now.
They JG Wentworth out here. I want mine right now. And that's I think that's a big difference between real men and real,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, there was something you said in there that brought me back to something a little different. And it's about being ready and preparedness, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when people become victims, they become victims because they are soft targets. In other words, you look like you incapable of protecting yourself. That's why most victims of robbery are getting snatched up. The most times females, right? Okay. And whenever somebody get their chain snatched, what we talking about how our culture is, it's usually a person that's by themselves, they ain't got security, or out here that they look like a victim. Mm-hmm. They look like they're easy target. And when you said something about Jesus, you said Jesus didn't walk around like he was soft, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the image that's put out is that Christians are soft.
Mm-hmm.
That Christians that they ain't men. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That the real ones are out here in the streets. They out here going to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
But that is so far from the truth.
Absolutely.
I've seen some animals in the church house, dog. I ain't trying to toot nobody home, but you better come correct.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's not saying, out of the flesh or out of pride, but the same individuals that were out there are in here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the ideal of what it is to be a Christian, the ideal of what it is to live a sanctified life, the idea is completely different than what reality is.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, if I was going to blame anybody, I blame what I call the old school church, because mama and them, grandma and them act like they ain't never seen. You know what I mean?
True.
There was this.
Yeah.
There was this. Oh man, like it's hard to be in church because them jokers perfect. You know what I mean? Like they Granny was wearing a little white thing on her head when she was born. You know what I mean? And as a young individual, in my teenager, I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
I can't be that.
Right.
But as you say, growing up, becoming a man, putting away childish ideas and thoughts, you really find out that people are people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The only difference is between the people that's in here or out there is choices.
Mm-hmm.
Choices. And those choices, those decisions that we make determine our outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, You can be on the outskirts right now and don't know God or don't know anything about religion or sanctified, and you don't know nothing about no Bible.
Mm-hmm.
That don't mean that's the end of your story.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just because somebody in the church don't mean that's going to be the end of their story. Because people go away from here suddenly and you don't know where they stand.
Mm-hmm.
So embrace the process. Embrace the journey, because it ain't finished until you in the ground.
That's good. I think that you know, there's always been a misconception, and I say that not have always being a part of the church.
Right.
Right. There's a misconception of what the church is, and versus, you know, or what they said it was versus what it is. Right.
Right.
Like, you know, it's you said it, where we're all people, right? We are all people. We are all man. None of us, you know, is perfect. We all fall short of the glory of God.
Absolutely.
Right. There's not a single one of us that can, you know, say that we haven't. So like you said, back in the day, it was, you know, everybody seemed to act perfectly, and there was judgment, you know, cast down, like, oh, you this, you that, or you don't do this enough, or
Right.
and all the while, you know, you doing stuff too,
Right.
right? And I think that's a big reason why some don't come to church, because of, you know, the negative perception that it's a place where I'm gonna be judged for the things that I don't do right. Where church is, when you get into a good church home, this is what we call progressive sanctification.
Yes, sir.
Right. It's a process. It's like I was talking about earlier, about things are in a process. It takes time. Like, I can't expect you to be where somebody else is and you just came in here. It's fun. I gave a testimony this past Sunday about my son, and we got to hang out a lot last week, and I came to the realization that my son is 9.
Right.
Right. and you think, like, it's your son. How don't you know he's 9 years old, right?
Go ahead now.
My son is highly intelligent, right? He is, his intellectual capacity is up here. And, you know, because of that, we treat him like he's 19 and not 9. We have an expectation of him to do more and be more, because he's, you know, of how intelligent he is. And I just came to the realization, like, my son 9. like I know he in the 5th grade. I know he about to go to middle school. I know all of these things, but he's 9. So it's understanding where he is. I can't put him where I think he should be.
Right.
And that's, you know, when it comes to church, right? When you come in the door, I can't put you where Sister Jones is,
right,
or Brother Thomas is,
right,
because of this expectation I have on you. You have to get to that point. You have to grow to that point over time. And some people grow quick.
Yeah.
Some people grow on pace, and some go slower than others. But because of the how fast you grow, I still have to remember where you are.
Right.
Right. So that's related to my son. I know how fast your mind goes, but I have to remember where you are. So, you know, when you come into a good home, understanding where they are, that's where God meets us where we are.
Yes.
So our requirement when you come into the church is to meet you where you are. If you still in the street, well, no, I'm not about to come hang out in the street with you, right? But I understand where you are.
Right.
So I'm going to try and talk with you and relate with you a different way, but still trying to, you know, slowly get you to, you know, get to show you a different way.
Right.
You know, but if you are, I've been in the church, but I'm out to church, I want to come back in the church. Well, you're in a different place than somebody that's in the street.
Yeah.
So I'm going to meet you differently.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we could, you know, just start to turn that narrative and really help people to see that, you know, when you come into the house, what grandma and them and great grandma and them and how they were and how it was, doesn't mean that's how it is.
Right.
Right. And if you're willing to come in and accept something different, and accept something new, maybe we can start to show you something that you maybe haven't seen before,
Right.
or not even that you haven't seen before, but show you a different way. Right. I think that's important to balance out that real man.
Right.
And I'm gonna change street dude.
Right.
Because even there's some street dudes out there that have knowledge,
Absolutely,
of Christ,
mm-hmm.
right? But they choose to do something different. So,
see, now I kind of wanted to go somewhere else, but you brought me back. So, when it comes to the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
How, I'm gonna say, what would be the most effective way to model the real man, and not as fathers, right?
Mm-hmm.
How to model that and give that example not only to our children, our sons, our daughters, but also to those around us, because some of these cats don't have a father,
mm-hmm.
or don't have an example. What would be the best way, society-wise, to model what it is to be a real man?
The best way to model is to live out the way you're supposed to as a man, right? Be good to your family.
Mm-hmm.
Be good to your wife,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that's a big one.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very big one, because how you are with your wife, you should be. God made man. He made a helpmate in the woman for the man, right? But even though we're equal in God's eyes, she's a weaker vessel than us. So how we treat her is important.
Right.
How we handle our wives is important.
Right.
Showing that, is important. But also, when it comes to the example, be a man of your word. God is a man of his word.
Absolutely.
You should be a man of your word. Your word is, they say your word is your bond, right?
Right.
All you got is your word.
Once you break that,
it's like, I trust you until you lie to me, right? So that's your word.
Yep.
Your word is good until you don't
Until
make
it
good
ain't.
on your word, and we taking it, away from outside, but that outside, that's a big thing, right? Like the biggest gangster, his word is his word.
Right.
Right. But the best man, his word should be his word.
Question.
No question should be his word. Being a provider, being a protector,
Mm-hmm.
being a provider doesn't mean that you run everything. It just means that you provide for your family. Being a protector don't mean rule with an iron fist, but know that, and when it's times of need, times of trouble, when they're scared, when they're worried, they can come to you. I think one of the biggest thing for men, and I stress this, I think I talked about it a little bit before the last time I was here, but showing emotion,
Right.
showing vulnerability.
Yes.
Right. It's these things that society, the world, teaches that men shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's so far from the truth.
Yeah.
Like, it's so far from the truth. If you're a human, you got feelings.
Speak on it.
Right. If you're a human being, you have feelings. But as men, we're taught, bottle it up. Don't express yourself like that. We don't do that. No,
Let nobody see that.
Suck it up. No, but how can they see that? If they're not seeing it from you, when they get out here, they're not gonna do it either. And then what happens is all that bottled up tension and frustration and all that, now it come out when you outside.
Yeah, there's an explosion at that
So
point.
now you always into something, you always doing something, you don't know why you doing it. Well, it's because you're not expressing yourself.
Right.
No one's giving you the opportunity to express yourself, because nobody showed you that it was okay
Right.
to express yourself. So, these characteristics, these things that I'm kind of pointing out,
Mm-hmm.
I think plays a part in what a real man looks like.
Right.
I think I remember years ago, I would always say, man, I'm never going to be the guy that always talk about God and talk about the Bible. And here I am. I'm that guy now, right? Because I know what he's done in my life. But
Right.
You know, and I feel like a real man has a relationship with God.
Yeah.
Because, again, if we are made to be like him, man, how could you not look at him as the perfect example of how to be, right? We always need to look to the Father to see what it is. Just hit me. We got to look to the Father to see how we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So on earth, they need to look to their earthly father to see how to be. So if we got the example, we should be the example that he gives us.
Ain't that my story? Oh man. So before we wrap up, this is the last question. And I'm gonna put it out here for both of us to answer it. But what should be our legacy as man when it comes to an example, our values? What should we leave to our community? Because see, one thing, I'm gonna cut this off. I swear we're gonna stop after a while. I don't like the word culture. I don't like it because the first part is cope, right? That's why I keep saying society. But for our communities, how can we leave a legacy where the values and who we are or what we believe in can continue to spread what real men are? How can we do that? Or how should we go about that? And I say for me, it's like I feel like church is one place, but it has to be done different than it was when we were coming up. Because a lot of times in church, the man won't there. And you didn't have an example of a man in the church unless he was the choir director, right? Unless he was, on the brother on the drums, or the pastor. And back then it seemed like our pastor was super old. So it's like, bro, he don't relate to nothing,
right?
So I would say first is that we got to see brothers of value doing something of value, and we got to show those same character traits of a real man by our actions, like you spoke on the word. And we got to instill those values that we hold to truth to our family, to our children, to our sons, so that legacy can live on. If you want to sprinkle on top of that.
So legacy, right? What you leave behind for the next folks to follow. I believe it starts first with understanding what was behind us, right? So you touched on how it used to be,
right?
What you remember in the church, right? So I think our history, understanding your history, is important for your future. You can't move forward into the future without understanding what happened before, right? Whether it be good things that happened or bad things that happened, right?
Right.
If there was things that worked perfectly that can be used again, knowing your history is great. Right. If there were things that didn't work out, we need to know that too, so we don't repeat the same mistakes. Within the church itself, I 100% agree with you. We need to see more men in the church, right? I think, is church for men has gotten a bad rap because when you think about it, the church is telling you, like, the church is going against everything that we say manhood is, right? Right. You ain't supposed to be with all these women. You're supposed to live right. You shouldn't, filter your brain with things that are going to, cloud your judgment and your thoughts. So we telling you, don't be in here trying to get a bunch of women. Stop all that drinking. Stop all that smoking. Don't do all of these things that out in society is telling you, hey, this is okay to do, man. Right. So, the first thing we need to help and help, not the first, but another thing is that, integrating men back into the church, understanding that, like one thing I love about Strong Tower Christian Fellowship is that we are allowed to be ourselves. Yeah. Right. We all love God. We are all chasing after him and seeking him diligently, but we're allowed to be ourselves. Right. And I think, that helps at least a lot of the men that attend our church, because, you know, they can be, you know, how, you know, they can be silly, or they can be laid back, crack some jokes.
Right.
You know, we do things that they do outside. You know, we do fantasy football. We go hang out. We just hung out, you know, Friday.
Right.
And we're going to do it again. So, you know,
Yeah.
we're going to do it again. But, you know, having other like-minded men to show you that, hey, man, it's okay to come in here and be yourself and still love God and still go after God and still follow what it is that he has for you to do. Our legacy is tied to those things, you know, our history, our church. Our legacy is tied to what we leave our family. And I'm not just speaking financially. Right. Leaving them traditions, things that they can do with their family. You know, when I was young parent, one thing that we did and still do to this day is we had dinner together every night. Right. That was so important to me, because, you know, I didn't do that as a kid. Right. Me and my sister sat at the table, we ate dinner. My father went one way, my mama went another way. I said, when I become a father, I want to make sure we eat together, because that's our fellowship time. That's when we get to spend time with each other, talk to each other. How'd your day go?
Right.
Find out things that are going on in their lives, and you know, kids, they busy, they going. So to have us all sit down in a place, and especially today when phones, internets, computers, everything else takes up your time.
Yeah.
Put all that down. We're gonna sit down and have a meal together so we can talk. Having those kind of traditions, right? Those are things that I see. Like my daughter, she's married. She's in Texas. I see her doing some of the things that she did growing up, right? And it helps me to, you know, well, first it makes me super pleased. I love seeing that. Like, you doing what we used to do. That's dope. But that's the legacy that we left them. You know, that how important it is to get that time with family. You know, we used to take road trips, stuff like that. I'm watching them do these same things. So the things that you leave behind for them to follow, the good examples, I think that's part of your legacy too, because what happens is they're doing it, then their kids gonna do it, and then one day one of the kids gonna say, why do we do this? Well, long time ago, your great-great-grandmother, your great-great-grandfather, this is what they used to do.
Right.
So, you know, we kept it going. Like, you know, I don't see, well, I won't say I don't see, but it's there, those big family gatherings that don't happen all the time no more, right? Like, I remember growing up, Sunday dinner, grandma's house, after church, every Sunday.
Yes, sir.
Every single Sunday, that was happening. And I actually just told my son-in-law when they were here visiting, I said, listen, because they're moving here, when y'all move back here, every Sunday, we're gonna have dinner at our house.
That's all right.
You know, keep that going, and those where you learn about your history from your own, like your family. Like, this is, you know, let me tell you about your great grandfather. Let me tell you about your grandfather, because they're not here anymore.
Right.
And then when those older folks die off, where's your history coming from? Right. Keep those traditions going. Keep things going, and that's a legacy that you can leave for them to continue on and doing those things that. Like I said, it seems like it's lost, right, in today's world. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, right, but not as often as I can remember it happening, right? That was a thing. Like, you didn't have to ask somebody, hey, what you doing for the holiday? You already knew what they was doing. They going to grandma's house, auntie house, somebody's house, and that's where they gonna be. Now it's like, well, what you doing? I don't know. I'm probably just gonna be at the house, or I'm gonna go. Really? Like, you know, I think those things are really, really important for the legacy that you leave behind, because what you leave for them to do and follow and be a part of, that will live on. Like, you'll be gone, but the things you left for them and put in place for them, that can continue generation after generation after generation, and that's priceless.
Absolutely. So, I think that's it, man. We're gonna wrap it up. Do you have any closing remarks? Anything you want to say to the people?
So what I like about our conversations, man, they go all over the place, right?
Yes, sir.
They stay within the realm of what we're trying to talk about, but they go all over the place. So I know, you know, where it may seem like, dang, they went here and they went there and they went here, they went there. But everything that we talked about really lines up with the topic, right? Real men versus real you know what's, right? And as a man who I believe, I can sit here confidently and say,
right,
I'm a real man.
Right.
We have work to do.
Absolutely.
We have work to do in order for us to get to a place where the things that we continue to see in our community, when we can start to see that go the other direction.
Right.
I think a lack of real men stepping up and standing in front versus kind of falling back and watching, that is contributed to where we are right now.
Absolutely.
And when we as real men start to stand up, step up, stand in front, we can see a big change when it comes to those that are stand on that real ninja side, right? And we can bring them over. Hey, listen, man, what you doing ain't gonna get you what you think, except trouble, heartache, pain, and get them over to the right side. But that doesn't happen until real men stand up.
Absolutely. So you got it. Time to stand up. Real man stand up. Subscribe, like, follow the podcast, all the stuff in the links, all that below. But remember, we here. We here. There's a man in your life somewhere. If you ain't got an example, look for examples like this. People that's going to tell you the truth, help you out, and give you guidance, give you actionable steps that you can do to improve where you are in life. This ain't about pointing fingers. It's about changing the generational curses and getting things on track. So, till next time, stay encouraged, stay positive, stay productive. Till next time, lights out. Chill.